April 19th, 1970, here in Portland, Oregon, to Dallas Russell and Luana Russell. My parents are here today. This is my stepmom, Barbara, and Dallas. They're in the front row here. Let's see here. Hey, Sherry, Alan. Anyways, yeah, so my parents separated when I was too young to remember. I moved into an apartment with my mom at age 5 over on 81st and Burnside, and that's where I met my future stepdad, who moved in below us. And we moved in with him by the time I was 6 years old. I'm just going to kind of give you a crash course of my early addiction and get to where the testimony happened. I had my first hit of pot when I was 7 years old from my stepdad, and it wasn't very long before I was smoking pot weekly. By age 10, I was probably every day, at least one hit of pot, every day with my stepdad and my mom. By the time I was 12 years old, I was drinking regularly with them. My dad can remember all this pretty clearly. I was pretty much a full-fledged alcoholic by the time I was 14. And I passed out in gravel, on top of roofs, under cars, with married women, under cars in bark dust, buried in rocks, in my vomit, in my own feces. I mean, I blacked out over 100 times, all before the age of 20. It wasn't until I was in my 20s where I realized most people go their whole life without even having one blackout. And I've done this, hundreds of times. So anyways, by the time I was age 26, I was introduced to meth. And I literally thought it was like kind of an answer to my prayers, because I was trying to quit drinking, and it took, I didn't drink for 15 years. I was a meth addict. And probably anybody that's been through the meth addiction realizes you think it makes you smarter. All this stupid stuff goes through your head. If you do anything for 17 hours a day, you're going to learn something about it, right? And so that's what meth makes you do, is put 110%, 125% of your energy into whatever it is you're doing. But so anyway, I kind of reached the end of my rope with that. I held a job for 12 years, and I was a functioning drug addict, and I produced well at work, and they had enough, and they finally kind of, with grace, laid me off at some point. So I was on unemployment for a couple of years, and that party ran out, and I kind of ran out of money, and I eventually ended up at my dad's doorstep, and I remember him coming out, and I was freezing cold, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Okay, enough's enough." He said, "So we'll let you stay here on the condition that you check yourself into treatment, into a treatment program." And so I went into the Blanchet house at age 41, and I lived there for 5 months. And then I moved into an Oxford house after that, and I met my ex-wife, and we moved in together. I was on and off with her for like 5 years, but ended up ultimately losing the house that we bought, brand new house that we bought together. And I lost that marriage because of alcoholism. So anyway, fast forwarding to when I met Shay, which was when I was, how old was it? That's been about 5 years now, 6 years. Anyway, all right, so, Shay came into my life about 7 years ago, I think now. And her and I were alcoholics, and we had I don't know. She had problems with her pancreas. She had 10% of her pancreas working. And when I met Shay, her stepdad, it's her stepdad, he brought me in the room and he said, "Hey, don't drink with Shay, it will kill her," And I was like, okay, and I didn't really take it seriously. But anyway, long story short, we ended up moving in together. We lived together, and we drank pretty heavy, and she kept telling me all the time, it's my body, I'm tired of people telling me what to do. And I agreed, you know, but I didn't see how sick it was making her, and people from the outside could see that she was becoming sick. And anyway, she wasn't bringing much to the table as far as like working goes or anything like that. So I in my drunken state, I would call her names and act out of drunken behavior. And I got really, really tired of hurting her feelings and making her cry. So I was like on my way home from work one day, and I put on the Christian radio station, and I found a song by Corey Asbury. Amanda, I think you mentioned Reckless Love. Mine was Sparrows. That was the one that dropped. But I just burst out into tears on my way home. And I went home, and Shay was in bed. You know, she'd wait for me to come home from work, and she was passed out. She would get up and drink with me. It would take me a full glass of alcohol. You know, I'd drink it with a straw as fast as I could, just to get rid of my anxiety or whatever. And anyways, yeah, she woke up, and I found that song on the radio again, and I played it for her, and I burst out into tears again, and I just sat there. I cried for like an hour and a half, and she didn't say a word to me. She just grabbed my hand and held my hand. And at that point, at that moment, the Holy Spirit filled me. I mean, it's like completely vanquished, completely, totally, utterly defeated any desire to drink. I mean, it was just gone, right? And I was like, whoa, you know, so like for like 3 months, nonstop, everything that I saw, heard, tasted, felt, everything directly correlated to Christ. I mean, it was overwhelming. I mean, I can't even describe it. It hasn't happened since, and it had never happened before at that level. But I mean, it was so realistic. I even told Shay at one point, I was like, man, I can't handle this. I got to throw a movie on. Yeah, you know, I can't. So I pick out a movie, and I start watching it. It's called Left Behind, and it was about the second coming of Christ. I was like, really? And anyway, that's what God does when he's present in your life. And so to cut to the chase, that Christmas, this was October, and then so October, November, December, it was 3 months solid, every day, all day long. I mean, one day, it was sevens. I'd stop my press, it would stop on 777. I went to the store, it was $7.77. My gas came to $7.77. A license plate in front of me would say 7. I mean, I was like, what is going on, right? That's just one day, right? And so, but anyway, yeah, so that Christmas, she was like nervous and wanted a drink, and I let her talk me into letting us have a drink for Christmas to relieve her anxiety. And the second I took that drink, that the Holy Spirit left me. I mean, I could feel it. It was gone. I mean, after one sip, I mean, that's all it took. And yeah, so her and I relapsed, and 9 months later, September 21st, or September 12th, 2021, it was a Sunday morning, and I woke up next to Shay, and she was cocked up in the bed with her tongue sticking out, and I shook her. I said, Shay, and there was no response, and so I called the ambulance, and I said, my girlfriend's not responding. She's, you know, anyway, yeah, I paced out in front of my house. The ambulance showed up, and I followed the ambulance to the hospital, fully expecting to be bringing Shay home with me. And I had been drinking all weekend with her. We went to sleep together that night. So I passed out in my truck. You know, it was during COVID, and I got a phone call at 9 in the morning. I had dropped her off at the hospital in emergency at 5 a.m., or the ambulance dropped her off there. I went in and checked in with the doctors. they said, go ahead and come in to talk to council. And as soon as I heard the word council, I knew something was wrong. And I went in and I saw the doctor, and he said she has 0% chance of survival. And I was like, what? And he says, yeah, she has 0% chance of survival. And I said, can I see her? And she was like, right there. And he put his arm out, and she was green. I mean, green like the Grinch, that green. And I reached down, and I knelt down, I kissed her on the forehead. I said, I love you, Shay. And I stroked her arm, and I kissed her arm, and I didn't know what to do. I was still drunk from the night before. I mean, and so they said, would you like to talk to the chaplain? I said, yeah. And I went and sat in the room for a couple minutes, and then I left. I went out to my truck and I called Shay's dad, and I said, Shay's in the hospital. She's got 0% chance of survival. And he said, what? I said, yeah, she's green like the Grinch. And if I could do things over, I've never been with somebody that close to their death on their deathbed like that, especially my companion. And I didn't stay for her last breath. I wish I would have. I didn't. I didn't go to her funeral. I was too ashamed because I fed her alcohol and I caused her death. Anyways, so got 15 minutes left. So I went home and I drank. And I drank for 8 days, really heavy. Everybody that was associated with Shay, my parents came over the day she passed away. Her godmother came over, my sister. I think that's it as far as people coming over to see me that day goes. But then, and this is not to make anybody feel bad. Mom and Dad, you personally, I told you I was going to bring this up, and we know that how God works is mystery, right? But nobody came to see me. No one, not one knock on my door, not one knock did I have on my door for over a year. After that day, I sat alone on Christmas. I sat alone on Thanksgiving. My dad said he was going to come over, and he forgot. And I forgive him. And you know what? God works in mysterious ways, and He knows that too. But so I just thought to myself, well, I deserve this. I don't deserve to have any. And it was extremely hard getting through the holidays. I had quit drinking 8 days after after Shay passed. I quit. I started going to AA. I had to get back to work, and so I was isolated. I was working 12-hour shifts 6 days a week. I was making $6,000 a month take home pay. I was making good money, but I was burnt out, and I was isolated, and I was alone. And like I said, nobody had knocked on my door for over a year. Not one knock. It's not like I couldn't go over to other people's houses or anything like that, but just nobody went out of their way to come see me. And it hurt, and I didn't understand the complete, total abandonment until later when I relapsed again, and I crashed and burned. I couldn't go to work. I just didn't show up, and they kept calling me, and I knew I was done. I was like, I'm not even gonna answer. And I sat in my bed rocking, saying 4-letter words back and forth to myself, just like, what am I gonna do? I'm done. And I didn't feel like I could go on anymore. So I looked, because I had already had this spiritual awakening, I searched the internet for days saying, can you still make it into the kingdom of heaven if you take your own life, right? And I was convinced that in moments of insanity, God gives you breaks and He'll let you. So I thought, man, what am I gonna do? How do I drink antifreeze? Do I take a hose from the exhaust of my truck and run it out to the bed of my truck and sit out there? I put a knife next to my bed, was serrated in hopes that I'd have enough insanity to just cut my throat. I mean, that's how bad I wanted to kill myself. And finally it was decided that, I guess I'll hang myself. That seems like the easiest way to go. I couldn't find a place that was high enough, and I couldn't find the studs in my ceiling. I walked around, it just wasn't working out. I could not figure out where to hang myself. And finally I decided I had this invisible dog leash that I bought. It's like a gag thing, you get at a carnival or whatever. And it's got a pretty stiff wire on it. And I put the harness on my doorknob in my room. And I strewn the wire over, and my idea was that if I can make a slip knot to tighten up around my neck and make it short enough my knees won't hit the ground, that the weight of my body would just do the rest, and I could just kind of black out. So yeah, so I got this thing all rigged up, and I put it around my neck, and I was like, you gotta do this, you just gotta get it done. I couldn't muster, I couldn't get drunk enough, because it takes courage even for a coward to take his life. To take a coward's way out, it still takes some courage. It's a terrifying thing to take your life. And so I did. I put the rope in my neck, and I said, Lord Father God, if there be any reason that I should not be taking my life, now is the time to talk. And I knelt down, and I started to feel the rope cinch up around my neck. And remember, nobody's knocked on my door, not one. And that's not an exaggeration. I am telling complete, total, utter truth. Not one knock has been made on my door in over a year. And as my face started to get red, I heard a knock. I was like, no way. I stood up. And, Revelations 3:20 says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hear my voice and open the door, I sup with him and he with me. And that actually happened to me. Somebody knocked on my door. It was my neighbor, and he said, your truck alarm's going off. Right? And, yeah, so I called my dad, and my dad took me to the hospital. And I was in there for a week, and I hid all the pills underneath my tongue. And I just couldn't wait to get out of there and do it right. I wasn't done yet, And so when I got out, I didn't tell anybody I was getting out. I got out a week later on a Friday. And I went straight to the liquor store, and I got a half gallon of vodka. And I bought a rope and a stud finder and a hook. And I sat there with a step ladder in the middle of my living room, and I was drinking my vodka, and I had the rope already around my neck, and I was getting ready to get on the ladder and put the hook in the ceiling. And who comes barging in my door unannounced but Shay's dad. And he didn't know I was home, and he hadn't been over for, and so I was like, anyway, I don't know what happened, but I decided I had a wallet full of money. He came in and grabbed the vodka, grabbed the rope off my neck. He said, what are you doing, And I was mad because he grabbed my vodka, and he goes, here. He poured me one shot, and then he left, And I could have gone back up to the liquor store, but something inside me, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm trying to. So, man, I wish I almost had more time. I didn't think I was going to be able to use up all this time, but anyways, yeah, there have been a number of things that God has done in my life where they've been direct answers. And my parents have seen a bunch of my mom, especially, but even the guys I live with, they're just like one thing after another. Yet I still have doubt in my mind, and it's unbelievable. How the enemy tries to fool us. There's a couple points I want to go over here. I was living in sober housing. That's what I had to do immediately. And I got into that. Shay's dad hired me at his company in metal fabrication, and I worked there for 2 years. And as I was living there, I was in this sober housing, Oregon. This guy came up, and he was looking over me in my bed. I was like, whoa, what's going on, man? They just moved this guy into my room. And I was like freaking out. That's when I met Dave and Cheryl, and I met them through Sherry and Ellen here, and that's why I'm so delighted to have Garth, to have Dave and Cheryl, my parents, the men I live with, Sherry and Ellen. I mean, this is the voice of God right here. All you guys in this room are the voice of God, and where I get my direction and my instruction, and this is how I'm sustained. So anyway, yeah. Sanctification, restoration, transformation is all a painful process. It hurts. It's not fun, but it's worth it. And yeah, what I was going with was I'm still plagued by intrusive or uninvited thoughts, overthinking, cognitive dissonance, spiritual warfare, doubt, fear, anxiety. All those things are still reality in my mind, in my head, and I fight them daily. And I often feel like I'm not supposed to be here for a reason, and that there isn't something better for me, and that's, but I know that's just a bunch of hogwash. So one of the things that my dad always likes to tell me, I mean, he's always had such a great way of putting things. When all the times I've gone through battling, trying to get out of addiction, he's like, man, Babe Ruth made the most home runs in history, but he also struck out the most. It's because he kept trying. And one of the things that he said that one of his pastors said is, God sees the finished product, right? He doesn't see the mess that we're in here down on earth. He sees us redeemed and righteous in his eyes. And that the story's already been written. Our lives have already been written. And in the book of life, and the victory's won, the battle is won. And Jesus is king, right? I mean, so I got 5 minutes here. So I just wanted to go over a couple scriptures that I guess have resonated with me over the years. One of the ones when I've been trying to fight addiction is 1 Corinthians 10:13 that says, there hath no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But God is faithful and will not suffer you the temptation above what you can handle, and with the temptation will also make a way to escape it so that you are able to bear it. 2 Corinthians 5:17, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed, and behold, all things are become new. And I like the King James Version because it says are, not have. It's are, meaning continual, perpetual, constant, lifelong, ongoing, present. And then Philippians 1:6, and this one's for everybody in this room, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion until the day of Christ. Just the fact that we're all sitting in this room is assurance that he's began a good work in each and every one of us. So my goal, and I'm not saying I've achieved this, but what I would like, my buddy Mitch has mentioned it, and I've seen it somewhere online too, is but the highest frequency you can emit is authenticity. Yeah, so when you're authentic and you're lined up with Christ, your etiquette, your conduct, your demeanor, it lines up. And your behavior outside of the church is identical to your behavior inside the church. And that's what I'm reaching for. That's what I want. I'm not saying I'm there, but I'm a lot closer than I was. And because of all you guys and your stories and your support and the voice of God that I hear through all of you is why I'm able to have some hope in this. Anyways, I'm a couple minutes shy, but is that good? Is it good?